luckily I've written it out. What is possible to teach younger people to love, have compassion, care, help? Our churches need children to prepare for their futures, whether they're good or bad. How can they get loads of support for those missing friends? So what I'm really saying is, what can the church do to get younger people into church to know they love each other?
That's probably right.
Yeah. Maybe we can chat about that.
Okay.
I mean, there's lots of things that have been talked about that might offer space for young people, but yeah, I mean, the church, that's a different, yeah, we won't do that here.
Okay, talk to Cam after it's over. Yeah, anyone else? Pass the mic, please.
I'm just imagining a situation where perhaps a very close friend or relative is experienced what talked about where they've lost someone. How do you talk to them? Because the thing I hear is people often say, no one wants to talk to me. They want, like it's like they're going to catch it, like it's a disease. So what can we say to people that will be helpful? What should we avoid saying to people who just had a sudden loss?
What can we say to people that have just had a sudden loss?
And what shouldn't we say?
There's many things people shouldn't say, and that is, I think you said it, how are you, how are you going? That is the most difficult question to answer because you don't want to keep saying, oh, I'm terrible, I'm worse than terrible. There's another thing not to say, just call if you need something, because we're never going to do that. We're never going to, whoever said it, I can't remember, dropping the casserole at the door and running is the best thing you can do for your friend, because we don't have the energy to speak. We can barely breathe. And to have somebody that's dealing with those important things like mowing the lawn and paying the bills, gosh, it's just heaven sent. So not asking how you are and doing those things where you're not looking for accolades or you're not looking, because so many people came to me after it down the track and said, oh, did you get that letter? Did you get those flowers? I have no idea, I can't remember. It's grief fog. So I think there's also a thing that many grievers don't like is that be sensitive to the things you're saying to the griever. Like if your friend's lost their mother and you stand there, and so many people do it, and I know they don't do it with menace, but oh, I've got to go have dinner with mum tonight, or I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And that person's standing there thinking, if I just had one more hug, one more dinner. It's just about being aware and kind and listening with your heart. That's what it's about.
Thanks, Chantel. I think that well said from experience. If you want to follow up on that theme, please talk over a cuppa. I have one here for Dr. Rob Gordon. How do you help a community deal with a major event? Can you give us some insight, please?
I don't know. There's so much to say about all this stuff. Let's talk about community. I think the first thing to do is to realise that the people that are central to it are not going to be available for a while. The brain fog you mentioned. There's a very clear relationship between memory and having to perform. The more you have to perform, the less you can remember. So many of those details will re-emerge, but when you've come out of that acute state, the shock state I mentioned, in relationship to a community, I think one of the first things to do is to have a structure that brings the community together, that doesn't demand that the people most centrally affected by grief have to take responsibility. They can if they wish, but that people step up and try to be as inclusive as possible. Because the one thing you can absolutely predict in the community is that there'll be conflicts and schisms, because everybody will have a different point of view. And it's very important to actively draw that together around common goals, common purpose. If that doesn't happen, there'll be a short period of high morale and togetherness, which will be coercive to some people. You've got to get in there with us, but I don't feel that way, no, but you've got to. And then it'll start to fracture. But we've found from working with communities over many years that if you get in there actively, one of the things you can do is invite the community to participate in some kind of common enterprise, planning a memorial, for instance, building or designing or working with designers to build a bricks and mortar memorial of some sort, to do a garden or something. And it doesn't matter what it is, as long as the community own it. Now that means that the grievers have to be central to that process. And so that, you see, we don't realise everybody in the community is going to be affected. And there'll be many people who are deeply affected, not because they lost someone in this event, but because they've lost someone else and they've never really processed it. And now they'll come in and say, this is my chance. There might be a local group that decide to take a running with it, but it's very important to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to participate. That means it takes time, it takes meetings. They need to be constructed properly and run well, and so on. So that'll be a start, and then out of it can come positive things like this, a group, a ritual or something that happens every year.
Thanks, Dr. Rob. We appreciate that. We've got one more question before we have a cuppa, okay? This is directed to Ros Lewis.
Hi, Ros. My niece, who's almost 30, is really struggling with trauma and loss. And we've tried to push her to seek some help, then we've backed off. And we're finding it really, really difficult to get her some help now we've backed off and letting her speak. And I've written down things tonight from all of you about the importance of just listening and not judging her and reconnecting with her. But it's just really difficult when she breaks down so badly.
Did you say this is your niece?
Yes.
Who's in her 30s, that's experienced trauma in her life?
Yeah.
Has she seen a psychologist or anything?
She has, but she says they say the same thing all the time. Just breathe, do meditation. And she said, I'm sick of it. Everyone I see just says breathe and do meditation and bump her medication up, which doesn't seem
so important if she does see someone that's trauma informed, that does understand about the principles of trauma.
Yeah.
I guess if she's and sometimes it's important to say to people, well, you might have to try a few people. I generally say to clients in the first session, by the time you finish this first session, you should know whether you can work with me. So she should have a sense of whether this person is someone she can work with, because psychotherapy, counselling, psychology does depend on the quality of the therapeutic relationship. Meanwhile, I suggest, so I guess you can encourage her to not give up on that. And I guess it sounds to me that you're doing what you need to do, just waiting for her. So when she opens up, and she'll be having her own survival skills to do what she needs to do. So it sounds to me you're doing what she needs, just being there when she does cry or open up. So, but encourage her to keep searching for the right therapist.
Can I make a quick comment? You see, psychologists have a lot of skills and techniques for targeting and helping people with symptoms and problems. But what she might need to look for is a psychotherapist. Who is going to create this open space of talking. But having said that, people come and go for being available and not, and if they've had a disappointing experience, they won't see anyone. But hang in there, hang in there. It doesn't matter how long it takes. There'll be a time. And if maybe you can do some research yourself and try and see if you can locate somebody that might be helpful in a different way. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can give you a card if you like.
There you go. If you can stay around, please do. Thank you for attending tonight. Remember to love one another and listen and learn. And I think the wisdom of Dr. Rob tonight, some of us might have to go home and have a cry in the shower. It sounds like therapy to me. But let's thank all of our speakers. They've all generously offered to stick around, so if you want to chew their ear for a bit, let's be sensitive and let everyone have a go. There's lots to learn. Thank you.